going to show you a quick card that I designed when I wanted to use up some of those bits of ribbon that I've been saving, the little bits that you just don't like to throw away, and I know you know what I'm talking about. And there they are. I've got a stack of little bits of ribbon that I just think might just come in useful. And this card was my effort to make my little pile of ribbon scraps a bit smaller. This is the card that we're going to make, and as you can see it looks quite cheerful, and it's quite a nice little way to use up those little scraps I was talking about. Step one of this card can be accomplished in several different ways. I chose to find a quote about a rainbow which I found on the internet, and it happens to be by Dolly Parton. The way I see it, if you want the rainbow, sometimes you've got to put up with the rain. And I thought that was quite appropriate for the ribbon rainbow that I'm going to make for this card. You can do what I've done, which is print the quote out. I've actually printed it twice on the same piece of paper so that, and I can't fit it in this shot without doing this, so that I can actually make two cards out of the one piece of paper. The reason I've printed it on paper is because I wanted a bit of a sturdier card to make my card with, and because it's got to hold all the ribbons, and it wouldn't go through my printer, so I'm going to put a paper cover onto my white card, and that's the way I've chosen to do it. If you've got an appropriate stamp, you could actually just do this direct onto the card that you choose to use, but I'm going to use the printed quote. So I've printed that out ready, and we're going to make the card. So I've got a nice weight of white cardstock, and I'm going to trim it. It's a DL card, so I always use the same measurements to make a DL card, so I'm going to trim it to 8 inches by 8 inches. And then I'm going to use my paper trimmer to actually score my card ready to fold it. So I'm going to move it to the 4 inches, which obviously is half of the 8. And I'm going, instead of using my blade, I'm just going to run a bone folder, and you could use an embossing tool if you wanted to, down the cutting groove of my paper trimmer, and then I'm going to use that to fold my card in half, like so. So there's my DL card. The next and quite nice job is to sort through your ribbon scraps and find all the colours of the rainbow. Now I started off by selecting roughly around 3 little strips of ribbon in each colour. I did have to cheat a little bit and go to my main ribbon supply and cut little strips off. You roughly want about a 4-inch strip. And now for the fun part, you're going to find your pieces of ribbon. So I'm just going to put them in order so they're ready to work with. So I've got roughly 3 pieces of each colour. The other colour that I didn't have much of was a darker blue, which is going to represent my indigo. And what I did find were a couple of scraps that I could colour with a pro marker. And if you look, I've also got 2 bits of yellow that are practically the same colour. So I'm also going to colour one of these yellow strips with a pro marker, just to make it a slightly different shade. You could use alcohol inks or distress inks to colour your ribbon as well. So working on a bit of scrap paper, I'm just going to create the little bits of ribbon that I've got missing from my collection. And these don't take long to dry because they're alcohol-based markers. You could always give them a quick dry with a heat tool if you wanted to. So I have now got all the pieces of ribbon that I need to work on this. So I have my collection of ribbons all lined up ready to tie into my ribbon rainbow, and the next thing that I did was cut 2 pieces of card, the same from the scrap of card that you had left over from making your base card, and they measure 8 inches by a ½ inch. And then I'm going to just stick them together with double-sided tape. Now the reason I'm doing that is just to give this strip a little bit more body because it is going to be carrying the weight of all those bits of ribbon. So I'm literally just going to stick one piece of card directly on top of the other, like that. I probably shouldn't be working on here, so I'm going to take this piece of paper out of the way so you can see what I'm doing better. So there's two pieces of card now stuck together with a piece of double-sided tape, and I'm ready to tie all the pieces of ribbon around this strip. My next job is to space the ribbons out evenly and to trim off all the ends. When you're happy with your ribbon strip and you've got everything trimmed and evenly spaced along the strip, we're ready to put our card together. The first thing we have to do is decide where we're going to trim our quote to sit. So because the paper that I've used is see-through, I can actually see the outline of my card, so I can use my fingernail, tried and tested tool of many a crafter, to mark the height, roughly the height, because I can always trim this a little bit more precisely. The top mark I make, I actually don't want to cut here. I'm going to cut a little bit further away because I'm going to actually wrap a strip of this paper to the back of my cards. So I'm going to cut roughly between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch away from this mark. But this mark I'm just going to trim along here because it's going to sit at the bottom of my card. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer again. I'm using my marks as a guide. I'm going to cut roughly 1/2 inch away from that one. And I'm going to cut a little bit below that mark so I've got room to trim it off if I need to. So as you can see, I've got another piece here that I could use for another card, so I'll put that to one side. And the last measurement that I need to cut is to cut this to measure 8 inches, which is the width on my card. So there we go. Now I'm going to run a strip of double-sided tape, actually I can fit 2 on here, across the mark where I'm going to wrap this to the back of the card. I'm actually going to put 2 on there, and then I'm going to measure it against my card, turn it over and fold that side over. And I'm happy that it's in the right position. And I'm going to take off my double-sided tape. And fold. Use your fold folder to smooth that into position. And fits on top of your card, like a little jacket. Now, the other place I'm going to put a piece of double-sided tape is where I'm going to secure my ribbon rainbow, and that is because, make sure your rainbow's the right way around, that is because the paper obviously is a bit more flimsy, so I want it actually stuck to the card. So I'm just going to position my card on my board so that I can see roughly where I want to position that strip of tape. So I'm happy with it there. I'm going to lift this paper out of the way, and I'm going to run a piece of double-sided tape at that position. And secure that to the front of my card. And then in exactly the same place, I'm going to put another strip of ribbon. You might want to use a stronger tape than I'm using here, where the red backed tape would work quite well, or you could use Pinflair glue gel. I found that this sticky tape is quite good, so I'm going to use the double-sided tape, and then you're going to stick your ribbon rainbow in position on your card. A finished card that uses up all those pretty little scraps of ribbon that you can't bear to throw away. Well, that I can't bear to throw away.